Afternoon, my name is Ola Atamanova and I want to thank everybody for joining us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. It's year 9 of the war and day 265 of our heroic resistance. In short, about the schedule for today at 1400, joining us will be Alexander Staruk, the military governor of Zaporizhia region, and we'll talk about the situation in Zaporizhia region. At 1430, we will have Andriy Melchenko with us live, director of the Atlant Support Center, and we'll talk about the psychological support to those who suffered from the military actions. Right now joining us is Serhii Khlan, the deputy of Kherson Regional Council. Good afternoon, Mr. Serhii. Good afternoon. We are from Ukraine. Kherson region is Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. These words sound as beautiful as ever. We are happy to see you. So let's start with the occupied territories in Kherson region. We know that now we can talk about not only about the right bank and the city of Kherson itself, but in part about the left bank as well. So Mr. Serhii, can you give us more detail about Kakhovka, Nova Kakhovka, Oleshki, and other towns and villages? We can only talk about right bank now, about the city of Kherson itself. About Oleshki, Kakhovka and Nova Kakhovka, it's a little bit early to talk because we don't have official information as of yet. I reported yesterday that Ukrainian banner already appeared near the cinema unit in Nova Kakhovka, and people take this information differently. There are also Ukrainian flags in Kakhovka, but there is still no confirmed information about the liberation of these places by our armed forces. However, the firefights on the left bank are still going on, and I think we will wait for the official confirmation from our armed forces. For the time being, we can only talk about the occupied part of the right bank of the Kherson region, Berislav, and other towns closer to Kherson and the city of Kherson itself. Currently, the occupied part of Kherson region suffers the humanitarian crisis caused artificially by the occupiers, including the city of Kherson itself. We know about the damage of the power distribution stations in the right bank in Kherson region, which also adds complications to the power supply of the city of Kherson and the right bank of the region, and even part of the Mykolaiv region. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of rebuilding the infrastructure, re-establishing power supply, heat supply, water supply. There are difficulties with communications, but it's being re-established gradually, and we are getting information about the sites where people can get connected to Starlinks and the mobile recharging stations to recharge their phones, to get in touch with their relatives and close ones. More such places are popping up in Kherson. These sites are being reported to the population by the military administration. It becomes more of them. Also, humanitarian aid is coming. The ration sets, which may provide all the inhabitants of the Kherson region with food. There's still a lot of work to be done. However, the most important issues are demining operations in Kherson and the adjacent areas, and neutralization of the Russians who dressed themselves in civil. Yesterday, Security Service of Ukraine detained one of the servicemen of the Russian Federation dressed as civilian, and during the interrogation he recognized that he's a Russian serviceman, reported his unit and how he remained in the right bank of Dnieper. There is still a lot of work of this kind, so we will wait for official confirmation, official information from the armed forces. Do we understand it correct that now Kherson doesn't have power supply, water supply, and heat supply? Yes, this is absolutely correct. No power or water in Kherson. The works are in progress to re-establish the power supply. DTAC reported that within the week to come something will be re-established, but the works can go on for a month or even more because there is very severe damage inflicted. As to the re-establishment of the operation of the government administrations in Kherson and Kherson region, and what about the return of socially significant organizations such as post offices, banks? Do they re-establish their presence there? Yes, they resume their operations there. Ukrinform will pay pensions to the pensioners. They are starting to do it. The Nova Poshta said they would reopen a department in Kherson. Also, the Kherson military administration is already in Kherson, just as the municipal military administration. That's why the government already reestablished its presence, providing the city's functioning. But we have treated with understanding because, as I mentioned, still a lot of work to be done there. We've seen already pictures in the open sources and in social media, pictures from the torture sites where our civilians were tortured. What is known about the crimes committed by the Russians there? Currently, national police documents and starts the criminal cases. There's a lot of cases already opened with regard to the crimes committed in the occupied Kherson and Kherson region. We will see all those cases shortly. Recently there was a report that in one village a married couple of farmers were killed in their house violently. And many cases in the right bank of Kherson region are being reported and documented. In all those criminal cases we will see this number and the reasonability of these cases as well soon. What is the situation with shellings and bombardments in Kherson and Kherson region? We see that it's a quiet period lately there. General Staff issued this statement that the occupants shelled Mykolaiv region from Kinburn pit, and in Kherson region we could only witness another power redistribution station detonated by the occupiers. There are no massive shellings currently on any towns or villages of Kherson region. As to the water supply, with regard to Mykolaiv, we understand that this is the part where water supply was coming to Kherson, and how is the situation there as of now. And another question is about the water supply to Crimea. Is that situation under our control or not yet? We still cannot control the city of Tavrisk, and respectively the water supply to Crimea. There is no control of Tavrisk, which has the main infrastructure facility for Crimean Canal, where we can cut the water flowing to Crimean Canal, and another installation that was blown up by the occupiers is in Chaplinsky districts in the border with Crimea, and occupiers destroyed it completely. So the pump stations, specifically during this period, we were cutting the water after the annexation of Crimea during fall period, and the water was absent in the Crimean Canal back then. So as soon as we take control over the city of Tabrisk, which is located between Kakhovka and Novakakhovka, we will be able to talk about cutting water supply to Crimea. And as to Mykolaiv, how about Mykolaiv? As to Mykolaiv, there was information that the Mykolaiv canal can be renewed. It will not take a lot of time. So we control the right bank of Kherson region in its entirety. So we have access to the pump station and the canal itself. So the works are in progress on renewal, and as soon as they're done, the water will flow to Mykolaiv. Dear colleagues, your questions. Irina Mamchur, Ukrinform. My first question. Mass media, yesterday or the day before yesterday, I guess, spreaded information that when Russians were withdrawing from Kherson, they opened the prison and let the prisoners out, and it's not known where those prisoners are now. There were rumors that they could be in Mykolaiv or Mykolaiv region. We submitted the inquiry to police, but still we don't have any response from them. Maybe you know something about this, any information? I'm familiar with this information, but I don't know what really happened there. I've seen that part of the prisoners gave up, surrendered. I mean, from the number of those which were let out by the occupiers, but there is no official information in that regard. Another information with regard to the left bank. The enemies and their movement over there. Is anything known about something that's happening in Skadovsk, Henichynsk? Their headquarters, are they migrating? What do they do there? And another question is about our people in the left bank. The people who were forcibly evacuated, do they have an opportunity now? Do the occupiers let them? Does the situation allow them going back home to Kherson, to the right bank, which is under Ukrainian control, or is it impossible due to some reason, or maybe it's not even necessary due to certain reasons? First of all, it's impossible, and as of yesterday, the military administration restricted the movement over the Dnieper River, and we cannot say even about anybody moving across Dnieper, including the civilians. So unfortunately, the civilians don't have opportunity to come back from the left bank to the right bank at the moment. About what's going on in Henichynsk and Skadovsk now, where the occupiers established their temporary headquarters, and in Henichynsk, they almost called it the capital of Kherson region. For the time being, they are really there. And Saldo, another time when he woke up from his medicine coma, he woke up and made some announcement of their work there. So the occupiers is at the administrative border of Kherson region and in Henichynsk. And the last question, maybe you know, well, it's commonly known news that the the railway. Укрзалізниця is rebuilding the rail to launch a train connection with Kherson. Can you comment on that? First of all, Укрзалізниця reported that they would launch the train connection, rail connection to Mykolaiv and Kherson. In the official statements, there are no precise terms and periods, so we will hear about more confirmations from Укрзалізниця. Thank you. There was already a train to Mykolaiv. Thank you, Mr. Serhii. Thank you for joining us here. I will remind you we had Serhii Khlan, Deputy of Kherson Regional Council. Our next briefing is at 1400, and we will talk about the situation in Zaporizhia, so bear with us. Glory to Ukraine.